Hello and welcome to Hot Issues. Today we're talking to a very, very distinguished personality, very, very prominent personality in Ghanaian politics. And we're talking essentially about Parliament, its role, whether it's performed well or not. We'll be talking about what is perceived as a national crisis and national politics. We'll be talking about a whole range of issues. Welcome to Hot Issues. Welcome back to Hot Issues, and it is my privilege to introduce the Honorable Alban Bagbin. He's been many things and is still many things. Indeed, he was a minister responsible for several portfolios, including health, works and housing, and so on. He's been majority leader in Parliament and currently is a member of a committee which was appointed by the President to supervise certain ongoing projects and so on. Today we're going to have a discussion with the Honorable Bagbin, and we're going to look at Parliament, we're going to look at its difficulties, and we're going to look at national politics. So you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir. What is the state of Parliament in the light of all the allegations that it doesn't have money to work and so on? What is Parliament like today?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to inform Ghanaians about the state of Parliament today. Parliament has been on since 1993 with the commencement of the Fourth Republic. We've gone through a number of phases, and this is now the 6th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. We are an institution in Ghana, and we are also affected with what happens in the country. As at now, we can say that the human resource base in Parliament is quite good, very high. We are still having challenges in areas such as finance, logistics, and in fact the whole legal framework surrounding the work of Parliament. And so Parliament seemed to be stagnating. In fact, we were expecting to be one of the best in Africa. We still rank among the best, but we're not the best yet. And we hope that with some support we'll be able to do better. Again, we're lucky that one of us rose up to the highest office in the institution of Parliament, that is Speaker, the Right Honourable Do Adjoho, who started with me on the 7th of January 1993, is now the Speaker of Parliament. And that is an achievement, and we are very happy about that. And with that kind of record and knowledge and experience of parliamentary practice, we were expecting that this Parliament would have performed better than all the other parliaments. But unfortunately, we are all caught up in the challenges that the country is facing. In fact, I think now we are beyond challenges. I do agree with those who think that we are now in a crisis. And so Parliament is affected seriously by that. There's a lot of resource constraints, and there's a lot of general apathy. I mean, members are meeting a lot of serious hurdles, and they are not being able to surmount them. And so performance have sloped down seriously. And I hope and pray, not only hoping and pray, we're working at a number of issues that could strengthen Parliament. And I want to call Ghanaians on board. We should really stop the blame game and see where we all went wrong and see how best we can improve and move ahead.
You mentioned the need for support. What kind of support? What areas, would you think that Parliament would need support?
One, we need to be able to reach out to the whole society to understand first, what is Parliament? What kind of Parliament is it that we have chosen for ourselves in Ghana? Who is a member of Parliament? What is expected of a member of Parliament? And what is also expected of not only the other arms of government, but also the people that the member of Parliament represents? We've not been able as a country to carry along the people who elect us as to what we're doing for them or on their behalf. I think this gap is one of the serious challenges. But basically, the basic law, which is the Constitution, will need to be relooked at. Luckily, we're having the opportunity to do some reforms in the Constitution. There are various types of parliament, and it's the country that decides which type they want. Do you want a parliament that is along the line of the British Parliament, very strong, very sovereign, and very independent, and in fact that is where the executive rests? Or do you want the type of parliament that is the United States, very independent? There is no member of parliament that or Congress that is Secretary of State? Or what do you want? We've tried to form what we always refer to as a hybrid, a combination of these two major, I should say, I won't say extremes, but major types of parliamentary institutions. But I think it's not working well. We finally ended up empowering the executive and taking away a lot of the powers of Parliament. And that is why you recall that it's now a cliche in Parliament that we keep on saying that Parliament is in the belly of the executive. And so I would prefer that we take some time and explain properly to the people what the options are before we even go to the referendum for the decision of the people as to the constitutional review. And that is why some of us have problem with the process that has been taken so far in the constitutional review. It looks like those of us who are in Parliament, who have gone through it all, are not giving enough space to be able to make input as to what should be done. And so this is a very unique opportunity for this country. And if we don't take time, it will pass by us again. And I support the civil society coalition that is trying to urge on the powers that be to give more room to Parliament to play and not just bring something fait accompli to Parliament. And so we need to do that. The second thing is that we need to look at the arms of government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. I'm not surprised because I heard long ago that the judiciary is struggling to operate. And so when just yesterday they were talking about the Court of Appeal not sitting again, I wasn't surprised. We need to look at it. Is it that we want to have an autocratic system being run by the executive arm, or we want the other arms to be able to check and balance the power that we give onto the executive? It's a decision we have to take. We are struggling as an arm to get even our budget releases to be able to function. If members of Parliament or committees of Parliament are given the function to oversee the performance of the executive arm, you definitely will need resources to be able to oversee what they are doing. You will even need to engage experts in various areas to be able to support you to do that. You may not have the capacity. I'm a lawyer by profession. I have little knowledge about auditing. I have little knowledge about oil. I have little knowledge about even agric, because my father was a peasant farmer, and I learned how to farm. That's all. So you need to get people in the area, not just listen and accept what comes from the executive, to give us other alternative views for us to be able to take the decision, or to even advise government on policy lines as to the way our people want us to go. And that is the other area that Ghana has been focused on. We haven't given resources to members of parliament to always get back to the people. After all, we are representing the people, and we are not sent by the people to decide for them what they want. We should be able to go back to the people and say, this is what government wants to do. What is your view? We don't have resources in that area. We've not been able to do that. And so you cannot do your oversight. Even in legislating, you are not able to tap the views of your people to be able to enrich the draft skeletal proposal that come from government. And so the people at the end of the day don't know what you are doing for or doing on their behalf. They are not getting the benefits that we have promised them. And there's general apathy, there's cynicism. And I don't know where we're going.
The apathy, is it amongst the people you represent, or amongst yourselves as parliamentarians?
Everybody.
The cynicism and the apathy.
Everybody. You know, Ghanaians themselves, when you meet them, you can see people are not encouraged, people are not motivated, and people are talking, oh, I'm not going to vote again, I'm not going to register, I'm not going to do this. It's because we've not been able to meet their expectations. I'm not even talking about aspirations or needs, with the expectations. And parliamentarians are getting frustrated, I must say. A lot of us, the senior ones, are even considering not proceeding after this parliament. Because and that is one of the other issues we have to look at. Successes become serious issues in Ghana. They are now seen as an anathema. People refer to you because you've been in parliament for long as a Mugabe, with negative connotation. You know, I think that people should rather be commending them, those who have managed to succeed and to stay there for long, because they don't vote themselves into power. It's people who elect them. And they might be satisfying a larger number of the people in their constituencies to be able to succeed. I've fought successfully 6 elections. I must be doing something that my people appreciate. And that is why when others contest me, I'm still able to win. And so instead of us to encourage and motivate others to follow suit, we rather discouraging people from succeeding in life. It's not only in politics, it's all over in other professions. So I think, coming back to Parliament, we will need to be able to strengthen Parliament to make sure, if we are the custodian of the purse, if we are the people who approve the budget, we should be able to ensure that what we approve is what the executive gives to the arms of government and the agencies of government to perform. We don't have that muscle to do that.
Is the very constitution you are operating not a fetter to the independence of Parliament? For example, 50% of the executive, of the president's cabinet, ministers, have to be appointed from Parliament.
Yeah, that is one of the features that gives us the arsenal to say that Parliament is in the belly of the executive. I truly have debated this with many people. I don't believe in that. I don't think that we should be appointing our ministers of states from Parliament. I don't think so. It's almost impossible for an individual to give equal attention to the executive function at the same time the parliamentary function, particularly so as the executive function seems to have better conditions of service than the parliamentary. And so most of the times when you, and I have been a minister of state before, you get caught up in the heavy load of work at the ministry, to the detriment of your parliamentary representation. And I think that is an area we have to look at. I know there's a proposal that the president should be given the opportunity to appoint his ministers from within or without parliament. That is either members of parliament or non-members of parliament. It's something that we have to look at seriously. I would want to have a parliament in Ghana which is devoid of executive influence, which is not part of the executive. That is what I want. I know others say that it's better we go the parliamentary system, where the prime minister is a member of parliament. I beg to differ. The stability of the British Parliament is as a result of the monarchy. They've been able to give a lot to support the monarch to survive and to be the source of stability and peace in the United Kingdom. Ghana is an amalgam of many ethnic and tribal groups. Some were acephalous groups. In other words, they had no chiefs. There's been some imposition, and this is why we still have some of these crises in the north and other parts of the country. And so we don't have a stabilizing factor like that. And to have a parliamentary system, I don't think that it will work for us. Again, we have so many minority groups. There are just a few majority groups. And the domination is such that if you come with such a system, there will be a lot of discontent in the numerous minority groups that we have. We want to have separation in such a way that if you opt to be in parliament, so be it. If you don't want to be in parliament, you don't contest to be a member of parliament. You stand aloof, work, and on the basis of merit, you are processed to be a minister of state, and you focus on that.
But you have some members of parliament who are not just ministers. They are ministers, they are members of boards, they have international obligations, and so on. How does that come about? Is it because we don't have enough qualified people in the country?
No. We do have more than enough qualified people. It's just the system that we run in. That is why I served in those positions. When I was a minority leader and majority leader, leader of parliament, I was a member of the Parliamentary Service Board. That is what the system says it should be. I also had the opportunity to serve as the chairman of Civil Aviation Board and various boards. In fact, as an ordinary member of parliament, I was a member of the board of directors of Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority. By the same law, I also served as a member of the Media Commission, and then while serving in these positions, I represented the country in many international bodies. In fact, I was at the World Parliament, the Interparliamentary Union, and I was the vice president representing Africa on a number of committees. I also belong to the Global Organization of Parliamentarians Against Corruption. In fact, the founding member, together with my colleague, a minority leader now, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, we moved the motion for its adoption in the Canadian Parliament. I was also a member of the African Parliamentary Network Against Corruption, very active member at that. And so with all this, how could one ever be very effective in any of them? It's not practicable. And I think that we need to go beyond the general concept that we know about democracy, be very clear in our minds as to what we want, and come out with details. You know, that's one of the areas. Because when you talk to people, they say, oh, but the Constitution says there's a provision on conflict of interest. What does that mean? Conflict of interest is defined differently from country to country. We need to legislate to come out with not just acts, but also instruments detailing specifically what we mean by a conflict of interest. And though that is left to the general understanding or perception of people, and that is not helping us.
Well, so we're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our conversation on Parliament. One of the issues which has become very controversial is the issue of lobbying within Parliament. And I'd like us to spend some time looking at lobbying in Parliament, whether it's a useful thing or not. So, short break. Hello, welcome back to Hot Issues, and we are in conversation with the Honorable Bagbin. He is a member of a committee appointed by the President to supervise some projects. We'll come to that later. He's a very distinguished member of Parliament. He's been in Parliament for 6 terms, used to be the minority leader, has been a minister, and has a wealth of international experience. We're talking about Parliament. So the issue of lobbying in Parliament was raised by you, and it became very controversial. What is the issue?
Lobbying is a process of people convincing Parliament to act in a way that will provide a good condition for them to operate. For example, you have the private sector, and the private sector has a number of players. In one of the areas, let's talk about imports and exports. The traders are meeting some challenges, and those challenges might be as a result of the legal framework that we have adopted. The traders could come to Parliament, get particularly the Committee on Trade and Industry empowered to understand in practical terms the effects and outcomes of the laws that we have passed. They could do that by comparing what we have with other countries, or by just sharing their experiences with the Parliamentary Committee. And with that knowledge, the Parliamentary Committee could get the executive, in fact, and that is the wrong thing to do here in Ghana, where we as parliamentarians have to depend on the executive to initiate laws. You see, but in other parliaments, the parliamentarians themselves could constitute leadership that will initiate the drafting of legislation and then bring that legislation to be passed on the floor of Parliament to improve the legal framework. And so lobbying involves partly convincing Parliament, building the capacity of Parliament to do what is right in the view of the people. There is some wrong perception about lobbying. People think lobbying is about taking money and buying the conscience of members of Parliament to do what they want. That is not lobbying. The laws on lobbying are very clear as to what a lobbyist could do, as to what a member of Parliament could do in those circumstances. Fortunately, we are now, as a country, detailing out issues of rules of ethics and code of conduct of office holders, public office holders, whether it's in the executive or in public service or in the legislature. And in fact, we have a committee now chaired by me detailing out the rules of ethics and code of conduct for members of parliament. What are the do's, what are the don'ts for parliamentarians? And so lobbying is quite an important area of democratic participation, where the people that you represent are able to come and get the opportunity to make inputs into whatever parliament or the executive is doing. It's not only parliament, they lobby. And they do this with the object of making sure that the common interest is better served. It's not just the few elected people who sit in the house and decide what Ghanaians want. So that is lobbying.
But if this is all you said, why did it become such a controversy?
Well, because we've not been able to explain it for people to understand. And so, as I said, the perception is that, oh, what is he talking about? Just because some people think that when they come to Parliament, and this is where my interaction with the civil society group in Kofredua led to the publication of a sentence I stated that MPs take bribe, which was exactly not what I said. People think that to lobby a member of parliament is to come to parliament, give some money to the member of parliament and say, go and do this for me. And so when they heard me talking about lobbying, and then people said, no, what is he talking about? Lobbying is part of democratic practice. And you cannot, and I mean it, you cannot have effective participation of the people without giving them such opportunities to be able to organize properly, to make inputs in legislation or representation.